From the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, we bring you the Gimme Three podcast. Hello and welcome, cinephiles, cinema lovers, movie appreciators, friends and family, to the Gimme Three podcast, a series for cinephiles. And as we approach our 3-month anniversary for this show, we want to thank all of our listeners for hanging out with us. We hope you're having as much fun as we're having, and we're having a lot of fun. And we're hoping that you get to add some of these fantastic movies that we've been discussing to your watch list. Now, as you may or may not know, Bella and I do offer bonus content, bonus episodes. And in fact, we've got a great bonus episode coming your way this coming Wednesday. Now, you may be asking yourself, Nick, how do we access these bonus episodes? Well, in the show notes, scroll on down and you'll see something that says, sign up for our Patreon for exclusive bonus content. Click that link and you'll be directed to our Patreon where you can sign up for just $5 a month. That is cheaper than a Big Mac these days. Sad but true. $5 a month. Now you may be saying, well, Nick, I want to sign up for the bonus content, but I don't want to go to another site to do it. Well, we've got you covered there too, because if you're not into going to Patreon, if you don't have a Patreon account where you're supporting other shows and stuff, there is a way for you to support the show and get the bonus episodes directly into your Apple or directly into your Spotify, if that's where you listen to the Gimme Three podcast. Again, go down to your show notes, scroll on down, and you'll see a link that says support the show. Follow this link, and again, for just $5 a month, same price. That's cheaper than a medium Starbucks coffee. What do they call the mediums? Grandes, Ventis? Who the shit knows? Anyways, you'll be able to access our bonus episodes on your Spotify or on your Apple by clicking the support the show link. Again, just $5 a month. So there you have it. 2 ways to access our bonus content and choose whichever works best for you. Now you may be saying, sorry, Nick, I got one more question for you. And I say, Jesus Christ, how many questions are you going to ask me? Well, you're going to ask, what kind of stuff do you do on these bonus episodes? Well, I'm actually glad you asked, because on today's episode of the Gimme Three podcast, we're doing a sort of highlight reel of some of our previous bonus episodes. Now, if you haven't already, check out episode 3 of the podcast, where Bella and I discuss our favorite films from 2023. In fact, here's a little peek behind the curtain. That was actually the first episode we ever recorded. We recorded the 3rd episode first. So that was our first episode that we ever recorded. And, but since there were so many amazing films last year, we decided to do a bonus episode, our first bonus episode. That's right. Give me more favorites from 2023. And in that episode, we discussed the phenomenon that was Barbenheimer. For here, this is what 2023 was, man. This was the Barbenheimer experience. So my pick is Oppenheimer. It is directed by Christopher Nolan. I'm not sure how to say his name. And it's written by Nolan, Kai Bird, and Martin Sherwin. Oppenheimer is about J. Robert Oppenheimer. The film follows him. He's an American physicist, and he was the director of the Manhattan Project's Los Alamos Laboratory during World War II, where they created, of course, the atomic bomb. He is the father of the atomic bomb. Everybody knows who Oppenheimer is. Most people saw this movie. I'm not going to get into the weeds with the plot because we'll be here all day. But I do just want to talk about the character work in this film, the character work that the script accomplishes, and what that Cillian Murphy depicts is just tremendous. You got this very prideful, flawed Let's be honest, he's kind of power hungry, but brilliant man. And he's faced with a crazy dilemma, which is, do you create something that could end a very real and oppressive evil if what you are creating is in itself evil? And these are the hard questions that Oppenheimer's faced with, and all of the incredible people who worked on this with him. They are faced with this reality, and the audience is faced with it, and they try and rationalize it by saying, well, if we don't do it, they're going to do it, which was probably true. So it's just, I like that there's no easy answers in this film, and I like that it doesn't let Oppenheimer off the hook necessarily. And I like that there's that scene that after they have dropped the bomb on them, and Oppenheimer is like giving a speech. And this is one of the times where Nolan introduces his sound play. He loves working with the sound design, and he just shuts out the applause, and we're left with like this horrifying buzz. And it seems like at this moment, the weight of what he's done finally hits him, and they do something really disturbing with the people who are in the audience as he's giving this speech. And it kind of shows them as if they had been hit with the bomb. And this intense weight comes across him, and it never leaves him for the rest of the film. And if you've ever watched interviews with Oppenheimer, it doesn't leave him for the rest of his life. So then you compound that with, you got this Louis Strauss cat played by Robert Downey Jr., who's, a hungry politician. And he's also kind of like, he's on the other side. He's a little bit more willing to do evil deeds in order to get the small win, in order to win the next election or to get that seat on the next thing, not concerned with the fate of humanity or what the ramifications are going to be for some of these very real, very tough decisions. So it just plays a lot with morality and what it means to be human and consequences of our action. And as most of Nolan's films do, power hungry individuals and what the horrors that they can bring to this world. So yeah, that's Oppenheimer. It's a loaded film. It is mostly dialogue, and it is gripping. Really gripping 3-hour movie with a whole bunch of white dudes talking. I loved it.
It's so true. I was like, I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. I love his movies, and Oppenheimer certainly did not disappoint. I was nervous though. I was like, all right, we got a lot of white dudes just kind of talking, and yet somehow it was just so captivating, even for how long the movie is. And I think the cinematography really stood out to me as well. It's one of my favorite aspects of this film. I love how much it almost like dances with the score.
Yeah.
By Ludwig Göransson, who's also one of my favorites and possibly created my favorite score of the year with this. It was just gorgeous. Also, I think they said that there was no CGI used in this film. It was kind of just special effects, and
that's what they said.
That's what they say. And if that's true, it makes me love it even more, because goddamn, there are so many beautiful, like inventive kind of manipulated shots in it that were just gorgeous. And it just has such a beautiful like visual aesthetic to it that kind of, that like also really powerfully tells the story in a way. Like, because, Nolan doesn't love the chronological order, like the chronological timeline, and they kind of used it seemed like he kind of used black and white versus color to convey this in Oppenheimer, which I just thought was so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he likes to play with chronology and all that stuff. And I thought this might have been his best work in doing nonlinear storytelling. Because it felt for a film to have this many characters and be about something like so complex, like, physics and bomb creation and politics and all this stuff, and to be nonlinear, and for the audience to not really be lost. Like everything, you knew what was happening and it was gripping. And in a lot of cases, I don't like when films just have like loaded casts, because it kind of, sometimes it can just take me out of it, because I'm like, oh, there's, Tom Hanks, there's that person. But I think in the case of this film, it actually worked well, because it's like, there's so many characters. It's like, I'm not going to remember who, X number scientist was, or this politician and stuff. But it was like, hey, I know who Matt Damon is. I know who Benny Safdie is. So I remember him. Yeah. I remember him. So I think that really actually helped kind of like keep it all cohesive and make it easy to follow. You kind of had these anchors of like,
such a good point. Yeah.
Because there's it's a lot of characters, and they all are kind of important.
Like if they were just randomly cast, it would not, you're right, it would not have the same effect. And I also loved, it almost seemed like, kind of going along with that, he had kind of like different levels of stardom. Like it was like he had like Robert Downey Jr. and Gary Oldman,
right?
But then he had Benny Safdie and Florence Pugh, who are like kind of at the forefront right now, and then all the way to like Josh Peck and Devin Bostic, like Roderick Rules, and
Josh Hartnett, which got Sonja's a big Josh Hartnett fan, so she was stoked.
There you go. There's that too. Like, yeah, just I don't know, just such a big spectrum of stars, and yeah, I love your point of like kind of them anchoring all the different connections, and even just like showing how important every person was in this story and project.
Yeah, it's an impressive film. Not that we were expecting anything less. Nolan is always going to make an impressive film, but I did not expect for it to be. I love Nolan's work. He's obviously an incredible filmmaker. Sometimes I have a hard time connecting to his characters or feeling anything. Like I'm always blown away by his technical ability and the way he tells a story. But this was perhaps the film that most made me think about what it means to be a human. And I thought that was a pretty outstanding accomplishment.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oppenheimer, I think they're doing a re-release of it in 70 mil and stuff, and 35. So check your local listings. Maybe check your local listings. Who the fuck does that? It's check the internet, Nick. Check the internet. And
we're
you
old
see,
school like that.
And you'll see if it's playing near you. Good God.
That's hilarious.
Check your local listings. I'm the only person on my block who still gets the newspaper, so I check my local listings. There's a thing called a iPhone. Type it in and you'll see where you can watch it. Okay. Now the other half of the big Barbenheimer extravaganza.
Changing the game of cinema and theater-going experiences with this whole Barbenheimer phenomenon. We have Greta Gerwig's sensational Barbie. In Gerwig's Barbie, Barbieland is thriving with all the permanently happy and perfect Kens and Barbies. But things kind of start to take a turn when stereotypical Barbie begins to exhibit some out-of-character symptoms, such as bad breath, thoughts of death, and, worst of all, flat feet. So in an attempt to fix herself, Barbie ventures into the real world where she learns that things in the real world are very, very different from Barbie Land. Yeah, getting into it. Similar to Emerald Fennel with Saltburn, Greta Gerwig is one of my favorite directors of all time. And when I heard she was making a Barbie movie, I knew she could do it. I was so fucking excited. I mean, I'd been waiting for this movie for like 2.5 years, and any tiny little update on it just got me so excited. I'm happy to say seeing this movie in theaters was an amazing experience, and it met and even exceeded all of my expectations. So I grew up playing with Barbies and definitely watching the OG Barbie movies, Swan Lake, Rapunzel, Fairytopia, Princess and the Pauper, which might I add is a classic, and probably one of the most underrated, in my opinion, The Magic of Pegasus. Absolute banger.
Holy crap. I didn't even know these existed. We're going to have to do a Gimme Three on these Barbie movies. Jesus.
They were crazy. Yeah.
What was that last one you said?
Barbie and the Magic of Pegasus.
Wow,
it was thrilling. Probably one of the most action-packed for sure. So yeah, I love how Greta Gerwig paid just such a dedicated tribute to kind of the classic Barbie that the world knows and grew up with. But then she also reinvented Barbie with Margot Robbie's role as stereotypical Barbie. Like, she ticked all the boxes and then more. And I think the genius of Barbie too, for me at least, lies in how campy it is. I love camp so much. So when I saw Barbie and saw how campy Greta Gerwig had made it, from like the visuals to the humor as well, I knew this would be one of my favorite movies. I mean, it is so unbelievably funny. I was laughing out loud from beginning to end. I mean, shout out to Ryan Gosling as Ken as well. I don't know who else could have taken on that role the way he did. And him and Margot were just perfect on screen together. Shout out to the whole cast, honestly. Everybody killed their role. I really love the intro scene. I was rewatching it the other day, and where the whole intro scene where we're introduced to Barbie, the other Barbies and Kens, and just Barbie Land as a whole, where everything's just wonderful and perfect and fun in every way. And visually, I love these scenes in Barbie Land because the set design and costumes are just like magnificent. It's so fun too how Greta Gerwig dropped that Letterboxd list of all the films that inspired the design of Barbie Land and just Barbie the movie itself. It had some of my favorites on there. We have Jacques Demy's Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which is one of my top 10 favorite films of all time.
Oh, wow.
And I love how much you can see the inspiration of this movie, and specifically Barbie Land, with kind of the layering of colors and different shades of the pink and red. And similar to Umbrellas, the set design and costumes like either match or complement each other in Barbie Land. So it's kind of like they either blend in or like really stand out. And that's like one of my favorite visual aesthetics. And then there's also, I noticed in the intro, The Wizard of Oz. So similar to that film and other soundstage musicals of that era, with Barbie, they created their own Barbie Land soundstage with these like beautiful painted backdrops. And another fun fact is actually when Barbie's driving through town, you can see that The Wizard of Oz is playing at the Barbie Cinema House.
Ah.
Which I think is also ironic because Barbie kind of has like a we're not in Kansas anymore,
Totally.
Toto kind of experience when her and Ken arrive in the real world. And then the last little fun feature of that is like instead of a yellow brick road, Barbie drives along this long pink brick road.
Right.
So it's just like little things like that I think make this film such a beautiful love letter to cinema, and then also just a visual feast for the eyes. And then, of course, thematically, this film is also such a gorgeous love letter to the experience of life and womanhood and even motherhood as well. America Ferrera has that amazing monologue that delves into all of this. And even the monologue aside, I honestly felt like there were so many other more kind of like simple, powerful moments that captured this theme. For example, that scene of Barbie at the bus stop in the real world, it's my favorite scene in the film.
I think that's my favorite scene too, with the older woman.
Yes, yeah. It's just it's so powerful. I mean, she's just sitting there and she allows herself to feel and experience all the motions of life around her. Like, I love how she's just watching like all the different people in the park involved in different situations. And she kind of reacts to them or with them, which was something that I loved. Like, she sees that couple laughing and she laughs with them. And you can like really, and this is where Margot is really shining. I mean, you can just really feel what she's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene just immediately brought me to tears. Even on the rewatch, I was like, oh my God, it's just so good. And then, of course, there's that beautiful moment between her and the older woman where she says, "You're so beautiful." And the woman says, "I know it."
Yeah.
And they kind of like smile and laugh together. And I think this scene just really is where Barbie kind of sees the beauty of experiencing life in all its fullness. And like, it really epitomizes all the central themes of the film and like what Barbie is going through as a character. Like, she's realized she's been living a never-ending facade where every day is the same and she'll never have the extraordinary experience of life and growing old. And I just thought that was really, really beautiful. And then, of course, I have to talk about just what an amazing feminist movie this is. And I loved how it really capitalized on equality. Like, it wasn't just, look how hard it is for women, which is true, but also it had a really amazing way of showing how patriarchy actually actively harms both men and women by, like, for example, pitting them against each other. We have that whole like Barbie fight scene and then the Kens fighting each other and forcing them into these boxes of what they can and cannot be, horses and mini fridges and all that kind of stuff. And I just really loved that because I feel like that's really what the feminist movement is all about. And I think it really successfully made this point, especially by having those like two different worlds, Barbie Land and the real world, kind of dominated by either side, which kind of proved that this imbalance would consistently fail someone, which would eventually lead to chaos and anarchy in this example. But they did this in a really funny way that I think everybody can enjoy watching.
Yeah, it's an impressive film, and that's I don't know. That's not really doing it justice, but like that's the word that I can think of, because like not only impressive that, you know, whatever, it made $1 billion, everybody loved it. Yeah. That's all great. That's all like icing on the cake. But what Gerwig was able to accomplish, because I can imagine that the amount of studio notes, studio heads up her butt while she's trying to write this thing. She's got notes from Warner Brothers. I'm sure she's got notes from Mattel, all this kind of stuff to be able to create this script, which has something to say, something important to say, while simultaneously being hilarious, while simultaneously being able to, you know, make the audience feel and cry and ponder, while simultaneously being able to connect with people of all ages. Like, this movie is for everybody. And I think that was like one of the beautiful things about going to see this at the theater. I think that was the best thing about going to the theater this year and seeing the Barbenheimer, Barbie specifically, you know, make waves, was you saw everybody at the theater and enjoying the movie. Black, white, young, old, little girls, mostly adult women, let's be honest. But, you know, like this movie's mostly for adult women, but but young kids could still enjoy it, and they will enjoy it for the rest of their lives. You know, like if you're a young girl and you saw this, or a young boy and you saw this movie in the theater, like it's probably a theater experience that's going to stick with you, and you're going to be able to. It's one of them foundational pictures. So, and then like you were saying, like the love letter to cinema, she's got. I listened to an interview with her on The Treatment with Elvis Mitchell, and she was just talking about, you know, like some of her cinematic inspirations for this. And she is very well versed in the language of film. She is a devout cinephile. She knows, for her to be able to inject all of these, like, you know, love letters to cinema and all these beautiful homages, like she did a lot with this movie. And it's not easy. If you work in this industry, you know, it's not easy to do all of that with a studio hovering over your back. It's not easy to do it, period. It's just like, it's the most impressive movie I think I've seen in a very long time, just because it accomplished so much before you even get to, you know, what it did at the box office and the award nominations that it's getting and are deserved. But just artistically, it is something to marvel at. So it's good for her. I'm a big Gerwig fan. I have been ever since Frances Ha. I fell in love with her then, and she never disappoints. And this was awesome. It was really awesome. So
definite must watch.
Yeah. So now the only thing that with every good comes a little bad. And now what I'm nervous about, Bella, I'll tell you, is, you know, like it feels like we're finally getting like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is kind of being like, okay, I think this thing is it's the end of the run. Now we're gonna get the Mattel Cinematic Universe, which is not
oh my god
Gerwig's fault.
And have you seen the list of, like, I mean, I don't even know how they're gonna make these toys into movies.
Yeah. So
I mean, Barbie's kind of a no-brainer, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like Barbie did so many great things for cinema and getting people back to the theater and getting audiences in, but and this is not the fault of the filmmakers, it's the fault of the industry. But now it's like, okay, now this is just actually a catalyst for this new wave of IP films, which, you know, is not what we asked for. But who knows? Maybe I'll be proven wrong, and these will all be fantastic films. I hope they are. I hope everybody's making fantastic films. I wish nothing but success for everybody, truly. But
time will tell.
Time will tell. But for now, we have Barbie, and we will always have this moment of time, 2023, when this movie just, shook the foundations of pop culture.
Took over the world, yes.
Barbenheimer, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Now, from time to time on our bonus episodes, we'll be interviewing filmmakers on our bonus content. And what you're about to hear is a sample of what you might hear in one of these filmmaker spotlights. You are about to hear a discussion with Academy Award-winning producer Mollye Asher. This is pre her Academy Award win, but we discuss her film Nomadland and her work with director Chloe Zhao. And if you dig this discussion, I would highly recommend checking out episode 7 of the Gimme Three podcast as well, our Chloe Zhao Spotlight episode. So enjoy this discussion with the brilliant and incredibly talented Mollye Asher as she discusses her film Nomadland. In 2020, she won the Film Independence Producer Award. And over the last decade, she has made some just stunning films, including The Writer, Songs My Brother Taught Me, Swallow, and of course her latest film, Golden Lion winner at the Venice Film Festival and a Golden Globe nominee. I'm talking about Nomadland. Mollye Asher, thank you for joining us today on Film Forward.
Thank you so much for having me and for that wonderful introduction.
I could have kept going, but we'd run out of time if I kept going with the accolades. So congratulations on just a really beautiful film. I've watched it 3 times already. So
wow. Well, thank you so much.
One of the beautiful things I love about this movie and a lot of the films that you've made with Chloe is the seamless blend of reality and fiction. And there's one scene in particular I want to talk about with Nomadland, and that's the rubber tramp rendezvous, just because it feels, as the viewer, that you guys were actually filming at a real rubber tramp rendezvous. And then I read after that you guys actually set this up. So I was just wondering if you could talk me through what it was like setting that up and what it was like filming it.
Yeah, I think that one's a really great example of the way that Chloe works and the way that production works with Chloe. So originally, we thought maybe we would shoot at a real RTR, but they're actually really huge right now. They're like 10,000 people go to the RTRs now. And we needed ours to be from one of the earlier ones where it was just around 50 people, and also wanted to be able to have control over the set. So the planning of that took months, really. It was one of the first things that we started to work on, just because we knew that it was going to be a whole production of not only getting the location, but also finding all of the van dwellers to be in the project. A lot of putting together the RTR was finding someone within the nomad community who could give us insight on what it originally looked like, and then also connecting us to people that would be in the film. And Sueyan, who is in the film, who does the wonderful lesson on 5-gallon buckets.
Right.
She sent us wonderful pictures from the early RTRs that were really helpful in designing the set. And then she also connected me to so many people who she thought, who she kind of handpicked and thought they would be interested in being in the film. And then I started to reach out to those people, told them a little bit about what we were doing, gauged interest, and then some of them suggested other people. And so I started to collect this group of people and created a document for Chloe so that she could see the faces, see the looks of their rigs, because they all have, from a Prius to a school bus. There's all different kinds of rigs that people have. And so she had this document with also like little bits of things about each person, like so-and-so loves to make parties at the RTRs. And so then she had that kind of like cheat sheet a little bit once she then got on set and was then talking to every single person individually as she decided who's going to have a speaking role or a featured role. So putting that together of all of the people to be involved took some time. And it was really part of the things that I love about working with Chloe is finding those communities and becoming a part of those communities in a sense. And that really is connecting with the people in a really personal way. So we did all of that planning, and then it was quite a choreographed kind of coordination in order to get all of those vehicles into the space. I wish that there was a behind the scenes video of it, because I was so proud of our production team and how they did that in such an organized way. And then it was really wonderful that we created this RTR, but everybody that was there was also just staying in their rigs overnight. And so it kind of became an RTR,
Right.
And I think that led to that lived in feeling, I think, that is then seen on the screen.
Yeah, they started to feel at home,
Yeah.
It's interesting as you're talking there, I kind of get the sense it's almost like a documentary style filmmaking approach, in that, not the setting up, but with documentary filmmaking, you have to develop this trust. You have to, if you're going to step into this world and live with them and show these people for who they are, you need to develop this cohesiveness, this trust. And it seems like you've obviously done it with this film, and you also did it with The Rider and Songs My Brother Taught Me. But it's really remarkable to watch. It's a credit to you and Chloe. Just patient filmmaking, I think, is something to be treasured. And it's obviously also a little bit of a luxury to have that. But I was just wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, the trust is a really big and important part of it. And I think Chloe's somebody that people open up to. I've known her a long time and I've always admired that about her. She can really get people just to open up and share things about themselves. And that builds trust, the way that she's a good listener. And then when we're building our team, we are looking for people who are also like that, people who are listeners and that people will trust. It's a special process of sort of casting our crew so that they match with the way that Chloe likes to work.
And speaking of crew, you guys had, a pretty small crew considering what you guys were doing. I was watching a little piece with Joshua Richards, your cinematographer, and he's talking about you guys shooting mostly in, low light towards the end of the day, small LEDs and light panels, stuff like that. And he was telling this story of Joel Cohen visiting the set, and Joshua has his big setup was a LED on a C-stand, and he kind of looks at Joel's like, this is what we're doing, It was a funny story, but hearing that and then seeing some of your BTS stills, I just wanted to get your thoughts on, minimalist filmmaking you guys accomplish so well. And sometimes when I'm on set, I think to myself, if we had about 40 less people here, I think we'd be moving a lot faster. So, obviously some stuff you do need a lot of gear, some stuff you do need a lot of crew, but talk to us about the differences and working with this film and some of your other films with minimal crew, minimal setup.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a necessity with this kind of filmmaking to have a small crew and minimal equipment because it just keeps you nimble. But I also think that it's a creative choice too, as to how Chloe and Josh want the film to look. Starting with Songs My Brothers taught me where it came out of a necessity because of financing reasons that we ended up paring it down to a dock-sized crew and, having minimal equipment. We even made our own sandbags.
Wow.
and then from that, though, they developed this style and this voice that I think just really lends itself to the way that they like to shoot. And it is fast setups, people that were on Nomadland who had not been on a shoot like that were just so surprised at how quickly we could just start shooting, there isn't that hour of lighting setup. And I think that helps them as to getting the spontaneity and the feeling of being in sometimes real places where you want to be able to just start shooting when you see something.
And you guys would see because you guys were shooting on the move as well, right? You guys were a traveling band, if you will.
We were, yeah. There's a funny little anecdote about catching things while we were on the move. We were always trying to shoot, even when we were moving from state to state and not letting any time go by where we weren't gathering some kind of B-roll. And Chloe had in the script that Fern sees a buffalo. And of course, we weren't going to, fly in a buffalo and plan that. So one of the co-producers of the film, Emily, she was traveling from where we were to another setup, another location, and she saw on her way a buffalo. And she knew that we were all going to be going along that same path because she was going to the next location that we were all going to be going to. And so she then called somebody who was on set and it became this whole little phone calls to make sure of and she placed down the GPS of where it was. And we found that buffalo as we were driving to the next location. And that's one of those moments that it's just, we're ready to capture and then we can capture something like that beautiful buffalo.
And that shot just takes your breath away, doesn't it? I remember the first time I saw it when she sees that, you're like, oh my God, it's a buffalo. It's so cool. With Nomadland and, the other films that you've done with Chloe, you're working a lot with non-professional actors, all of whom in all three films are incredible. But in this film, you're also working with a seasoned legend like Frances McDormand. Talk to us, if you can, about working with both the juxtaposition, if there is one. How do you prepare or shoot differently?
We don't really shoot differently. It was incredible, first of all, to work with her. I mean, watching her work is like a masterclass in acting. And so much of what she's doing is listening. And I think that's why she in particular and David Strathairn melded so easily into working with non-professional actors because they were great listeners. And that's, I think, also what made the non-professional actors comfortable to be working with these, as you said, these legends. As to what's different, I mean, the two of them really jumped into the way that we were working. And so they adapted to how we were working. For us, there wasn't much of a change in how we were working with the actors.
And part of that probably comes from, again, as we talked about earlier, just the trust in you, the trust in Chloe, when they meet her, they're just like, the vision's there. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, there's a lot of trust. Yeah, that has to happen there. Trust in the process, because it is different than a normal traditional process.
With the 3 films that you've done with Chloe, you also are revisiting the American West a lot. In the Badlands, I think that you were in the Badlands again in this film, right? You guys have such a respect and like intrigue for this part of the country, and it's shot in a way that like I don't see it in movies ever. What draws you guys to this area, and what's it like revisiting it after, you know, like it came out, this movie in 2014, 15 or whatever, and then home is where the heart is, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, like once you find a place that you're comfortable in, and also that just constantly gives you beauty, you know, it's hard not to keep going back. Yeah, I mean, Chloe had originally been drawn to the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, and that is what brought her out to the West. You know, I remember the first time that I went out there. I'm an East Coaster. I'm from Miami, but have lived in New York for 20 some years. I had never actually been to that part of the country, and it was jaw dropping how beautiful and vast and just incredible it is. And so, yeah, it's hard not to keep going back.
Yeah, it's just stunning to watch and looks great on screen.
Something that I thought was really interesting on one of our scouts for Nomadland with Josh, he was, you know, taking pictures and looking at this beautiful scenery as we were driving around. I think it was actually on the other side of South Dakota than we normally shoot. And he said something about not wanting to find shots that were too beautiful, you know, not wanting the postcard shot. And I think that that's his mindset like that. I think somehow makes these beautiful images that to us look like, I do want a postcard that looks like that, but it's his eye for seeing beyond what you would normally see as beautiful.
Yeah, it's got a lived in feel. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it feels very genuine.
Yes.
Speaking of genuine, as we were talking about earlier, just like blending reality and fiction, watching your films, it kind of feels like when you're finished watching a documentary, it's a different emotional impact than when you're watching a narrative film. This film in particular gives you kind of both. So I was wondering, for you as a producer, you know, as a producer, you walk away from every project feeling something, or, you know, you've completed something, you're exhausted, you've got all these emotions running. But walking away from this project, once it's completed, Nomadland, living with these nomads, being on the road, what emotional impact did this film have on you, you know, as a producer and personally?
Yeah, I mean, a huge impact. I loved working with people who were my parents' age, actually. That was one of the things that I was really excited about with this project, and hearing their stories. And there's so much there. And I felt like I had really been enriched by working with everybody in the project. And I'm so glad that we're all still connected and they're still in my life. I was just texting with Swanky. And that's something that's really wonderful about working on these projects with Chloe, is like the relationships stay and they grow, and not just like we've wrapped and now moving on to the next project. Like they become family.
Yeah, it's amazing. This film brought up a bunch of questions in my life that I didn't even know I had, Mollye. So kudos, congratulations. Obviously, I could talk about this movie for another day and a half, but we must move on. Nomadland, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a remarkable work. Hope you enjoyed that discussion. Mollye was friggin' awesome to talk with. Learned a lot from her. It does feel, I gotta say, a little fun and funny to be doing kind of a clip show. We're doing the show for 3 months and we got like a clip show here. I'm not sure if any of y'all have seen Clerks, the animated series. There's about 7 people in the entire world. There's about 7 people in the entire world that have seen Clerks, the animated series. It did not make it long. I think it made it like 7 episodes on ABC or something. But they did something that was really funny. On the second episode of the show, after the pilot, they did a clip show, which was just a bunch of clips from the pilot. I thought that was very funny, but apparently nobody else did because the show got canceled shortly after that. Hopefully we're not suffering the same fate. Anyways, something you're going to be getting about every single month on our bonus content, including this coming Wednesday, is what we're calling bonus finds. And this Wednesday, you're going to get a bonus finds episode. And this is where Bella and I are each going to give 3 film recommendations based off of new stuff that we saw throughout the month. And a lot of what we're going to be recommending is going to be new films that we haven't seen, new films in the theaters. So get you guys out into the theaters, and you can hear our takes on some of the new movies that are out and popular. But we'll also be talking about some older movies that may just be new to us and really blew us away. So here's a little sample of that from our February Finds episode. Some new stuff that we saw that we think you'll love. And if you do love them, please let us know. But here's a little taste of what we've got coming up. This is some clips from our February Finds episode. The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Ooh, okay.
1982, directed by, now that's old. 1982, directed by Colin Higgins. Right off the bat, I'm going to be honest with you, Bella. I'm kind of cheating here because this was actually a January find. But since we didn't have the show then, I felt like I had to talk about this movie.
That's more than fine. Yeah.
I saw this film for the first time in January. Had always heard of it. It was part of a double bill paired with 9 to 5 at the New Beverly Cinema, the greatest theater in these United States of America. And this movie was second on the bill. So I went for this movie because I always wanted to see it. I had seen 9 to 5, but I love Dolly Parton. I love Burt Reynolds. And I think I was on set this day or something. So after 9 to 5, I was like, shit, man, I don't know if I could make it. I don't know if I could make it another 2 hours. Well, as soon as this picture started, it was like somebody blew a puff of blow right into my face because I was up. This movie kicks ass. So much fun. You got these rich, unforgettable characters. As I said, it's a musical. The musical sequences are very big and grand and sexy and hilarious. It's just got everything. So this movie is about, it's about a whorehouse in Texas. There is no, there's no false advertising here. You get what you pay for. And this whorehouse has been around or brothel, if you want to be, politically correct. It's been around for 100 years. We see this great montage in the beginning that shows us going through like all the generations and eras of this like mainstay in Texas. It's like we see him in the 60s, doing the jitterbug and all this kind of stuff. And then it even goes back like before that, like to the Great Depression when people were broke. And during that time, because they were broke, the place accepted chickens as payment. So, of course, they had a shitload of chickens at this, in the backyard of this whorehouse. So it coined the nickname the chicken coop. It became known as the chicken coop. So we cut to modern day, and the chicken coop is now run by Miss Mona, they call her, who is portrayed by the brilliant legend Dolly Parton. And Miss Mona runs a very tight, very respectable ship. She's got rules. She's got rules for the guys. There's no drinking. You treat the women with respect. Like you come in and like you got to wash your junk, like all these like very, she's got rules. She got rules for the girls, like no tattoos, like you got to no chewing gum, where this is a classy establishment. And the other great part about this is like Miss Mona is somewhat of a philanthropist in this small Texas town. She donates money to all the charities. Everybody loves her. She is the bee's knees. Everybody in town, including the church folk and everything, knows that the chicken coop is there. Nobody's got a problem with it. Not even Sheriff Ed Earl Dodd. What a name. Who is played by Burt Reynolds. In fact, Miss Mona and the sheriff, they've got a secret little love affair, and they keep that under wraps. So everything is great. It's just a great Texas time. Until this TV personality comes on, who's not even living in this small town. He lives in Houston. He's actually from Jersey. This dude, Melvin P. Thorpe. This dude is a living, breathing embodiment of a Karen. He has a TV show where he just like calls out quote unquote injustices, you know, things that he thinks are wrong. Like he does one. Yeah. There's one episode of his show where he like goes after this candy bar company because they say they're supposed to have 60 peanuts in per candy bar, and he like makes them, you know, they weren't putting 60 peanuts in there, and he doesn't want peanut scraps. He wants full nuts. So he's got this whole speech about getting a full nut in these candy bars. The movie is bonkers. But anyways, this dude is like a giant Karen, and as you can imagine, he's got this goal to get the chicken coop shut down. And through some great musical sequences and a wild ride and a lot of laughs, that you got the small town and the sheriff who is trying to save the chicken coop, a foundational joint in this small Texas town. And I'm not going to give away the ending, but I will say, much to my surprise, and much to also the surprise of the strangers who were sitting next to me in the theater, the climax of this movie had me blubbering. I'm talking blubbering like a little kid with a skinned knee and shit. I'm talking, I was crying my goddamn eyes out. It got me. The best little whorehouse in Texas. It must be seen to be believed, and it must be seen to be appreciated. I recommend you check it, especially if you like musicals.
Awesome. Yeah. And I just looked up the film on Letterboxd, and the cover they have for it is freaking awesome. Like,
yeah,
it just looks so good. So I'm in. I'm all in.
Yeah, it's got a lot of like rich characters, like different politician characters and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like it's fun. It
sounds really ahead of its time in a way too, which is cool.
Yeah, and it is based off of, I think this was a play prior to it being a film. I think it was a Broadway play or something. So
I love that.
Haven't seen or read the play, but the movie is sensational. And if I see the play available any time,
I would imagine that'd be so cool.
Yeah. So check it out. The best little whorehouse in Texas. It is available on demand right now. I don't think it's available on any streaming platforms outright, but it is definitely worth the watch. Especially, I mean, you can't go wrong with Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds. Remember,
I'm
movie stars?
Immediately adding it to my watch list.
Yeah, these people are movie stars.
Yeah,
movie stars.
No doubt about it. Like, they don't make them like that anymore.
They don't. They don't. All right, Bella, let's get your second February find.
My second February find, I had to go with Marissa Malt's 2022 film, so very recent, starring the incredible woman of the moment, Lily Gladstone, in The Unknown Country. So I watched this movie on a plane ride. I don't remember where I was going, but just kind of randomly. I chose it because I saw that Lily Gladstone had won a Gotham Award for her lead performance in this film this past year. And I had just watched Killers of the Flower Moon and was completely blown away. So I was craving some more of Lily Gladstone. And so I was like, whatever, let's throw it on and check it out. And man, one of those plane movies again, where I had no idea what I was getting myself into. It was so emotional and just a truly magnificent hidden gem. And I definitely want to watch it on a bigger screen soon. So to give you some context, in this film, we're introduced to Tana, a young Indigenous woman who suddenly finds herself alone in the world after the loss of her grandmother. Tana then decides to embark on a solitary road trip through the open country of the Midwest, where she reconnects with her family. She tries to seek closure, and she even makes some unexpected connections along the way as well. So right off the bat, let me just say Lily Gladstone is so amazing. She just has this unbelievably unique acting style where every performance is just so undeniably like convincing. And I think it comes down to the subtleties in her performance. Like she just does, I don't even know exactly what, but she does all these subtle things with her face or her eyes or her body that just feels so real and natural. And it almost feels like she isn't even acting at all. And yet she is, and which is why she's just so extraordinary. And what's so incredible about this specific performance is that, like, rather than disappearing into this character, she really just pours all of herself into Tana to really create this very real and genuine and really powerful character. And I think Lily Gladstone was also just perfectly suited for the Unknown Country's style, because it's kind of cinema verite. So for anyone unfamiliar with this term, just to go over it really quick, cinema verite is like a documentary style of filmmaking that, by definition, like is mostly focused on capturing things spontaneously or truthfully without any interference from the filmmaker. So the objective of this style is to present kind of an unfiltered reality, but using naturalistic filming techniques like handheld cameras or just minimal editing. Basically, filmmaking techniques that are just more common for documentaries. So essentially, it's the idea of creating a narrative film that also can blend reality and the style of documentary filmmaking into it to create something that is stylized but is also real, if that makes sense. And there's a huge spectrum for this style as well. Like we've got Chloe Zhao's Nomadland with Frances McDormand, which I would say kind of leans more towards movie than documentary style. Whereas you've got like Albert and David Maysles, brothers who are known for their cinema verite style, and they made like Gimme Shelter, the Rolling Stones movie, which I would say leans more towards documentary. So anyways, enough of that spiel. The Unknown Country is just another type of cinema verite film, maybe more similar to Nomadland because it has like Lily Gladstone playing the lead role of Tana and embodying her character's trauma and her life experiences. But then the cinema verite or documentary style comes in as it chronicles all these like different wonderful people that Tana meets as she's like journeying across the Midwest in her car. So we're introduced to so many people from all walks of life, and we're given like little glimpses into just their personal spaces, like their homes, their place of work. And this is really where the documentary kind of like typical interview style or effect comes into play to make it real. And like, while documentaries are really good at drawing out strong emotions towards just real everyday people, I think cinema verite is so special because it can like dramatically elevate this emotional effect by capturing the unscripted essence of a documentary and then fusing it with like the beauty of artistic cinematic filmmaking. So it's just a really incredibly special style, and one that is unfortunately rarely seen today, especially in American films. So if you would like a modern American introduction to this cinematic style, definitely give this film a watch because the director just perfectly executes it, really captures the simple beauty of humanity, and all of these different interviews and the way Tana's character is written just really flawlessly conveys one of the biggest underlying themes of the film, which is you never really know what's happened or what is happening in a person's life, and everybody has a different story. And it's stuff like this or themes like this in films or documentaries, all of it, that I just personally find to be so touching and moving and powerful. So again, I could go on and on about
the beauty and the themes of this film, but I'll leave you guys with this. In under just 90 minutes, The Unknown Country will give you just such a visually divine, deeply profound, and really, truly unforgettable cinematic experience. The film has such a powerful atmosphere that just allows you to really feel and identify with every emotion. I haven't experienced such a connection to just like the overall mood and tone of a film like this in a really long time. Just pain, loss, uncertainty, love, bliss, and even fear are just all 100% understood and written across Tana's face, thanks to Lily Gladstone's amazing performance, as always. Also, I could watch her smoking cigarettes and driving in cars for days on end and never be bored. And that's kind of what this movie is, just a perfect depiction of life on the road. And she is just a vision from beginning to end. So yeah, if you want to check this film out, you can stream it on Mubi or rent it on Amazon Prime, YouTube, Apple TV, Vudu, etc. All the usual spots for renting films.
Yes, I did check this out per your recommendation, Bella, and I really? also loved it. Yeah, it was a very strong piece, and I liked the kind of like blend of different verite styles or techniques.
Yeah,
like there was one thing that they did that I really, really liked was they would, whether it was people that the main character actually connected with, who were like family members or something, or just people who like she tangentially crossed paths with, they would do these like little mini, like 1 minute documentaries about like certain people.
Yes.
Within the film, where they would have like that, like, you know, a 1 minute voiceover, and you kind of just get these like glimpses into like, what's the guy, you know, who runs the motel, what's his life like for a while?
Yeah.
What's the person who runs at this gas station, what's that person's life like for a while? And I thought that was really, it was just lovely.
I totally agree. It's really like subtly powerful. Like it's just something, and I feel like the blend of the styles, like cinema verite, is so I can't think of a word for it, but it's like so well done that you can't even really tell like what's real and what's not, almost. Like you're just like in it. It's just it's just the world before you and before Tana, which I really love.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Our first clip show. I hope you dug it. And if you did, you'll probably dig our bonus episodes, which you can access for just $5 a month. Again, go down to the show notes and click support the show link or Patreon link, whichever works best for you. And if you don't got $5 to spare, we totally understand, and we still appreciate you just listening to us. We appreciate the love. And we appreciate you, sharing all of the positive feedback that we've gotten so far. And speaking of sharing, we do want to hear from you. We want to know what kind of bonus content you want to hear in upcoming bonus episodes, or just what kind of content you want to hear in general. We want to know. You can message us on Instagram at Gimme Three Podcast. That's GIMME spell out 3 podcast. Gimme 3 podcast. Message us and let us know what you want to hear, or you can leave a comment right on the podcast. Once again, thank you all for hanging. We've got a bonus episode coming this Wednesday. We've got a Mother's Day episode coming next Monday. Great Mother's characters, so you're not going to want to miss those. Listen, learn, love, and thank you all for listening to the Gimme 3 podcast, and we'll see you at the movies.